Okay, so I think this video first starts off pretty strong. I seem to be moving a lot of movement going on. To a certain extent, it looks a little bit fidgety versus just moving from one spot to another. And then I clap my hands together there. That again looks like another nervous habit, trying to put my hands somewhere. I think I used a good hand gesture there in pointing in choosing a student versus pointing with one or two fingers. Again, there still seems to be a lot of movement here. The clarity of my voice still seems very well at this point, but still that fidgeting is going on. I think this is good movement across the classroom at this point. I think the fidgeting has gone down just a little bit. I think I put some good time here. The camera isn't showing this, but as the classmates were raising their hands, I was having that good pause before choosing on the student to answer the question. So there's another example of when a student raised their hand. There wasn't too much of a huge pause, but there definitely was that delay of around 3 or 4 seconds to choose on the student to answer. Now I know this is not shown in the video because the camera was a little off and nobody was by the camera, but I think one of the important things that I took note of while I went to the board and was doing some problems was that I did not turn my back to the audience, but rather most of my body was facing my students, and then it was just my head and my hand were actually turning to write on the board, but the most of me was actually facing the students, so I'm not talking to the wall versus turning my entire back to the students. Again, I used a good hand gesture there. Again, there was that good pause waiting to pick on the student. It wasn't super long. I guess I could make it a little longer. My voice is a little muffled here. So that could have been improved, but that could be due to the phone mic quality. Okay, so now starts our discussion part. Now the discussion part is mostly teacher-led, which is a little unfortunate, but it seemed to be really difficult to do, especially with 4th grade math.
Or at home, or in the kitchen even, where you use multiplication problems?
I did believe that I had some good pausing at this point, and I did do some good backing up, like away from the speaker, or away from the person answering the question when I picked on them.
Exactly right. So imagine if your
And I still
family
did the
said
good hand
7
movements
cans of
there.
soup or 7
Clarity of
chicken,
voice is really
and
good. And I'm not doing as much fidgeting as before, and I seem to be moving a lot more gracefully.
Bianca. 7 times 2. That's right, 7 times 2.
Again, I'm backing away from the person answering the question so that they can speak louder.
Heather, 14. Awesome, 14. So you pay $14 now, especially when you get older and when you start to get a job, when you're a lot older, maybe when you're in high school, you're going to be on a budget, you're going to be earning money. You're going to want to know how much you're
Again, this seemed to be very teacher-led, but I was finding it to be a little bit difficult because my students were pretending to be 4th graders, so it was really hard to get 4th graders talking.
do so many things. Computers have calculators. We have our own personal calculators.
So it was very limited to yes, no, and very short example answers. I could improve a lot on that though and find a way to bring up questions that students can be more interactive with or have more feedback on and comments.
Able to do math, but if we don't have a calculator, how would we? So this is why we're learning math. This is why we're learning multiplication in here, so that without the use of a calculator, we can still do math. Now, can any of you think about when you go to the doctor? The doctor, he goes and he feels your wrist. What is he feeling for? Bianca.
Isn't it your heart rate?
Yeah, he's feeling for your heart rate. So the doctor doesn't just sit there, because the heart rate is based off of a one minute intervals, right? Every 60 seconds. That's your heart rate. So does he sit there for 60 whole seconds and count each and every?
A lot of this was also very informative, it seemed very informational because these are 4th graders, so a lot of the time they won't know exactly what I was talking about, so I tried to really make it seem like I was explaining things to them very basically.
Emma, 7 seconds. Awesome. 7, no.
There was a little mess up here.
No, you're getting close. Let's try again.
And it seemed to throw this part off, so I am sorry about that. Yeah, because this was the second do-over of the discussion part, so it made it a little difficult when my students didn't answer the same way again.
He multiplies it by what? Remember, I said he has to get to 60, right? He can't. Your heartbeat is based off of 60 seconds. So if he counts for 15, what does he have to multiply it by to get to 60 seconds?
Is it 3?
No. Try again. Heather.
4.
Awesome. 4. So 15 times 4 is 60. And when he counts the number of beats in 15 seconds,
again, I seem to be leading most of the discussion. When I ask questions, I would provide most of the feedback for it. And that is, again, because this was supposed to be a 4th grade class, and it's really hard to get them to keep going on and on about really a one-answer question.
And we have to use multiplication at the doctor. We have to use multiplication in the store. So that wraps it up. And I hope you guys will be even more excited to do multiplication.
Well, that pretty much wraps up the entire video. I guess what made another negative part of my presentation was also the walking